Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
And how are you?
Hey Pat, how you doing, man?
I'm good. We haven't talked to you since Mitch wound up with Buffalo, and now with the benefit of hindsight and with some finality to it, can you share with us kind of your overview about why it didn't work out the way you had hoped?
Yeah, I think just as I look back, I think Mitch battled for this team, Pat, and I think really a lot of our ability to be in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years is a credit to him, and I think he sacrificed a lot for this team, and I just say we wish him nothing but the best, and now we're looking forward.
What went into the decision to not bring him back?
There's a lot of factors, and there's multiple people involved in that, and at the end of the day, we want to get better in different areas of our team, and that's one of the areas of our team where we feel like we're improving.
Mark Potash.
Hey Ryan, where's the upgrade with Andy Dalton with regard to that quarterback position? What does Dalton give you that you weren't getting at quarterback last year?
Yeah, hey Mark, I think with Dalton, the things we like as you look at it, obviously his experience. He's a 9-year starter. He's been to 3 Pro Bowls. A lot of leadership with Andy Dalton. Decision making, we like his decision making. He's won a lot of games in this league. Andy's been a durable player too. I think that's something that's understated. And I think really Andy fits our style of offense. When you go through it with our scouts and coaches, he can handle the drop back game. He can handle the RPOs, the play actions, the movements. And we just felt, as we went through those free agent quarterbacks, he's one of the more complete quarterbacks that we evaluated this year in free agency, and we're excited to have him.
Thank you.
Jeff Dickerson.
Hey Ryan, so overall, just your comfort level with the quarterback room with Andy and Nick, just how comfortable do you feel with that? And having those 2 veterans, would that make it easier if you were to down the road maybe add a younger player with those guys already in the room in that mix?
Hey Jeff, good to hear you. I think you're right. We have a lot of experience in that room when you look at it now. When you combine Andy and Nick, that's a lot of games in the NFL. So I think it does bode well for a young quarterback to enter that room with the experience of those 2 guys and some of the accolades they have in our league.
Dan Wiederer.
Hey, Ryan, one of the reasons Andy is here now is because things didn't work out the way you guys had envisioned with Nick. How do you explain why the experience with Nick didn't go the way that you guys envisioned?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that, Dan. Last year, when you look at it, and as we've talked about last season, it's not just Nick. We had other issues with our roster. I can just say from a personnel standpoint that we improved throughout the season, and that we're still striving to improve now. So it's just not all on Nick, but I think we're always looking to add to every position and get better everywhere. And there's no more important position than quarterback, and we feel like we've done that. We feel like we've gotten better than Andy. With Andy, we're excited to add him. Again, some of the things I mentioned to Mark that I think he adds to our offense. And with those 2 in there, we got a lot of experience heading into the 21 season.
With Nick already under contract for you, what set him apart as the clear-cut QB1 for you?
And I just think, as we go through it again, just the fit with the offense, the leadership that he provides, again, his decision-making, really, when you look back, over the years, I thought this year, over the last 5 years, this was Andy's best completion percentage over the last 5 seasons. So again, we have background with him also as you go through it. And I just think he's a good fit for our offense. So I would say the fit.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Ryan, I'm wondering, as you've been going on the pro day circuit and you started to evaluate these quarterbacks, what's different in the way You look at these guys physically, and then some of the kind of investigations you're doing and talking to these guys and learning about them. What's changed from when you've done this in years past?
Yeah, I think, it's great to kind of be going through this with Matt and our coaches and our scouts, and everybody's doing a thorough job. Matt and I just got back from a pro day this week, and I think it's just us being connected on the style of quarterback that fits our offense, what we're looking for from an intangible standpoint, and I think it all comes back to just the personnel department and the coaches being connected in every move we make. And Kevin, that's just not quarterback. That's everybody we add to our team. And I think the longer we're together, the more connected we are, the better we are with our decision making. And I think that's been proven over the last couple of drafts.
Are you individually looking at quarterbacks differently than you have in your career as a scout?
That's a good question. I think every year you grow as an evaluator. I think you never stop growing in that area. So there probably are things, and not just with quarterback, with every position, that I feel like we all get better at just with experience. Maybe things you value differently than you valued in the past, just as you have experiences in our league. So I would say yes.
Brad Biggs.
Hey, Ryan. How difficult has it been to juggle the salary cap stuff? I have to imagine as the season ended, releasing Kyle Fuller probably wasn't on the list of things that you were hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, Brad, you knew as we went into it just the type of offseason it was going to be, and we knew what we were going to be in for. We knew we were going to have to make some tough decisions. And really, guys, you saw this throughout the league. Some teams releasing multiple starters. Every team had hard decisions to make. Really, in a year where projection with a cap, there's almost a $30 million difference, Brad, of where we projected it to be. And this is the unfortunate part of it. And again, I think as you look throughout the whole NFL, teams were dealing with this. Teams were having to make hard decisions. With us, it came down to really one player. But we plan these things far in advance. There's a lot of people involved in those decisions. We always have contingency plans in place. And we wish Kyle nothing but the best. Those are hard moves that we have to make in order to construct our team.
Hub Arkush.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for doing this, man. I get the cap situation. I know how hard it is with Kyle, but I'm curious. He's more than just a starter, one of the better corners out there. And once you realize that you had to make that move, what he got on the open market doesn't seem that much more than what was due on the last year of that deal if someone had traded for him. Why do you think you couldn't get anything in return for him?
Yeah, those are all kind of conversations we have behind the scenes. And I think, we explore everything, Hub, before those moves are made. So we were really very thorough with that process. And, I think there is a difference from a salary standpoint from what you're talking about. But we go through all those things. We explore all those scenarios before those moves are made, including trades or reductions or whatnot. And that's just the way it worked out. So at the end of the day, we wish him nothing but the best. And we feel fortunate to be able to add a guy like Desmond Trufant. We got a lot of confidence in Jalen Johnson and his growth in his second season. We feel really good about Kendall Vildor, too. I thought he got valuable play time late in the year playing outside. He's a good young player that we drafted and got better the more he played. And with Trufant, I think you go back to him. He's an experienced corner. We feel fortunate we were able to obtain him the way we did when you look at it.
Deion Miller.
Good morning, Ryan. My question is about Allen Robinson and how you hope that he heads into this season, and if there is anything you need to smooth out with him, any hard feelings that might be there, knowing he really didn't want to be under the franchise tag, and now having signed it and where he's at.
Hey, Deion. Yeah, I think, it happens throughout our league. As I've said before, the league gives us that tool for a reason. And not just with us, you see it with multiple teams using the franchise tag. And, we tagged him for a reason. He's a really good player. We're glad he's part of our team. We know he'll be here for 2021. And again, he's a focal part of our offense. So it's a resource that we have that we used, and we'll continue to work through it.
You mentioned a bit about evaluating the quarterback differently. I'm wondering if that mindset comes from having to move on from Mitch, someone that you obviously moved up in the draft to get, someone you really had a lot of high hopes for, and then realizing that didn't work out.
Yeah, I think, again, Dion, you learn from every one of these things, and the draft's not an exact science. We know that. And, think there's so many variables involved in this. There's so many things that happen when you draft a player. And I think, yeah, again, you do learn from it. And I think, we're the different staff now. Again, I think we're very connected to our coaches on what we're looking for. There's multiple ways to attack all these positions, not just quarterback. And that's what we're working through right now.
Colleen Kane.
Hi, Ryan. What's your vision at safety opposite of Eddie Jackson?
Yeah, we were fortunate to get Deon Bush back. We got a lot of young players there that are growing. We're still technically in free agency, Colleen, so we're still working through some things on that end. There's still some guys out there. That was a deep position in free agency this year, so we're still working through that along with the draft. I feel like the puzzle's kind of halfway done right now as we're through this offseason, and with 8 picks in this draft, which is a lot for us. We're excited about that.
Mike Berman.
Morning, Ryan. You, according to Dalton, and would appreciate if you could confirm, he says, he was assured that he'll be the starting quarterback. What's the thinking behind assuring him that he'd be the starter as opposed to making it an open competition and potentially even inviting a rookie in?
Yeah. Hey, Mike. Yeah, because that's how we see Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback, and we're excited to have him. And again, that went into the evaluation process. He's been a starter in the league for a long time and produced at a high level for a long time. So again, that's all of us collectively in the building, coaches and scouts coming to that conclusion as we went through the free agency process. Yeah, he's our starting quarterback as we head into this season.
We're going to do 2 more for Ryan. Jason Leisure.
Ryan, understanding that the offseason is ongoing, with the net of where you're at now, what's your case for this team being better than it was when the season ended in January?
Hey, Jason, I think, hey, as we go into this, as we went into this offseason, Jason, we had limited resources in regards to the cap, and it was important for us to retain certain players. So I think as we go through it, and first off, getting guys back like Cairo Santos and Mario Edwards and Jermaine Ifedi, just to name a few, that was kind of the first step in our offseason process. But we challenged ourselves in free agency, really with limited space, to get better. And I thought our pro scouts and our coaches did a really good job adding valuable pieces. Were we big spenders in free agency, Jason? No, but I thought we addressed a lot of needs. As you talk about guys like Andy Dalton and Angelo Blackson and Jeremiah Tachu, Desmond Trufant, Christian Jones, Isaiah Wilkerson, Damian Williams, to name a few. Those are all needs for us and important players for us to add. And that's all before we go into the draft with 8 picks. So I think that all bodes well for us, in addition to us continuing to grow and develop a lot of our young players. So I think of guys like Jalen Johnson and Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney, James Daniels, David Montgomery, those guys continuing to grow, that bodes well for the Bears. So all of that, I would add to the excitement with our coaching staff. Really excited about Sean Desai and some of the things we've done on defense. And so I think as we look into 2021, the additions we've already made, the growth of our players, and some of the changes we made with the coaching staff gets us excited.
Can I ask you a second question?
Sure.
What is the, this is unrelated, but what is the organization's philosophy in reportedly voting against the 17-game schedule?
Yeah, as we kind of went through that, obviously, Jason, we understand and support Georgia's position. The vote passed. We're on board with the new 17-game regular season schedule. As far as Georgia's position on that, I'll leave that for you guys to talk to him about that. But we're on board with it.
Last one, Stacy Dales.
Hey, Ryan, just for clarity's sake, because we in the media get asked so often about the scheme fit and why it didn't work with Mitch, and you say Andy Dalton fits the scheme. What about Mitch's game didn't fit the scheme, just for clarity?
There's a lot of things that come down to that. And again, Stacey, we're really looking forward and excited about Andy. And I would talk more about that. I just think Andy's experienced. He's played in a lot of games in this league. He's won a lot of games in this league. Andy makes good decisions. He's accurate. And we just feel he's a fit for our offense. So instead of talking about the past and Mitch, I'd like to more talk about the future with Andy and what he provides. And we're excited about that.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good, Dan. How you been?
Good. Ryan was very detailed just now in kind of explaining the attraction to Andy and what you guys see in him. I'm curious, though, with Nick, the reason Andy's here is because Nick fell short of the expectations you guys had for him a year ago. Why do you think that was?
Well, so a couple things. First of all, is I think, every year is a little bit different, and there's different whys behind all of it. And when you look at the way that things went last year, it took us a little bit with the change that we made, of starting Nick at the beginning there, that third, fourth game in the season, into him getting hurt in that Minnesota game and then going back to Mitch. And within there were some things that went on and whether it was, just so many different variables. And I think when you look at the season and why did we bring Nick in last year, it was a competition to battle with Mitch. And no one was just handed the job. They had to fight for it. And we knew that going into it. Nick knew that going into it. Mitch knew that going into it. And we let them battle it out. At the same point in time, we knew that if Mitchell wins the job, we know what Nick has been as a backup in this league. We also know that if Nick wins the job, we know what he's been as a starter in this league. So there's so many different things that go into it. And that takes you now to this year. And, Nick and I have had some great conversations as to things that went on last year and the whys behind everything, which is very valuable. And obviously I keep that to Nick and myself. But there's so many different things that go into it. Well, now this year being new, we bring a new quarterback into play with Andy as the starter, and Nick understands that. And so the process that we go about through this isn't just like a one-day process. There's a lot that goes into it. And we feel like this is the best for us as an organization right now. And things are always fluid every year. And this is where we're at right now. And we're excited about it. And Nick understands where we're at. Andy understands where we're at. Our coaches know, Ryan, myself, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's there's just a process to it.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Pat?
I'm okay. I have a Trubisky question for you. This is the first time we've talked to you since he wound up with the Bills. When you came in, they brought you in part to help develop Trubisky into a franchise quarterback. With the benefit of hindsight now and with some finality to his Bears career, looking back, can you put your finger on kind of what went sideways there?
No, I don't. First of all, I'm indebted to Mitch and what he's done for so many different reasons. And things are, it's hard. It's hard to go through these processes. I care so much about them, and it didn't work out here. And that's I feel like for myself, I want to start with me just knowing like, hey, that's something that when I came here to Chicago, you're dealing with a young quarterback that obviously we all did a lot of work on with that class. I know we did in Kansas City as well. And you come here and different things happen, but the kid worked so hard. He won a lot of football games for us. And when I say I'm indebted to him, I mean, there's so many different conversations and good conversations that we had and things we worked throughout those 3 years. And for different reasons, it didn't work out. But I certainly appreciate the way that he handled everything, and I'm sure he's learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, just like you said, and wanting to try to develop quarterbacks and how do you do that? And, where could I have been better and try to get better and learn as a head coach in developing a quarterback. I'm sure he learned too in things that he could have done better and differently. But guess what? Here we are, and he's in a new chapter, and we're in a new chapter. And so I have nothing but good feelings for Mitch. I wish him nothing but the best. Teams change every single year. There's always change. And, I just, that's where he's at. That's where we're at. And obviously we would have loved to have it work for both ends, but it didn't. And this is where we're at.
You said you could have been better. Asking you to speak just for yourself. Is there, in what ways?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, as you go through as a head coach, there's a lot of different responsibilities that you have. And so when you look back at the relationship side, the communication side, you always want to go back and say, okay, could I have done more in a certain way of communicating, maybe a different way of how you learn who he is. But as you all know, I mean, the quarterback position has changed in this league in the last, 5 to 6 years. And right now, there's just so much instant gratification that's wanted and needed with teams that, people want it right away, especially too, when you can, hit on a quarterback that's cheap, in their first four years. And so I'm always going to start with myself and say, okay, where could I have gotten better? And I just feel like, some of it there is me being able to probably, as I build this staff, and we have different parts to the coaching staff of how they deal with the quarterback position, the coaching side, on the field, on game day, et cetera. I just feel like in general, that's probably where I would have started. But I learned through it, and I'm sure Mitch did too. And again, like there's a lot of other teams that have been in similar situations throughout the years, and that's just where we're at right now.
Jeff Dickerson.
Hey Matt, it's great to see you.
You too, Jeff.
I'm sure every year in the pre-draft process, when you have to evaluate quarterbacks, there's just so much that goes into that. This year with the changes, the fact you don't get as much time with these guys, has that forced you to change anything as an evaluator? And can you still get a real feel for what these guys are all about despite these limitations?
Really awesome question. I'd say this. It is definitely more difficult because you just don't have, when you're there at the combine and you're able to see these guys, specifically talking about the quarterbacks, throw and see the ball come out of their hands, see their footwork. You get to see every one of those guys from the top guy to the bottom guy. And right now you just don't have the luxury of doing that. As Ryan has said, and everybody knows, we've been to a few pro days with some of these quarterbacks and other positions, and it definitely helps, but there's only so many of those that you can do and see, and just with everything else that's going on. So, but here's what's fair is that every other team is doing the same thing. So there's a lot of teams in this league right now that are always evaluating the quarterback position. Ryan and I are super excited about, going through that right now together and how we do it. And so it's a challenge, but we look forward to it. And it's there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft class.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Matt. The connection between Andy Dalton and Bill Lazor is fairly obvious. I'm curious, do you envision this offensive philosophy kind of maybe swinging a little bit towards some of what Bill's done throughout his career? And have you decided who's going to be calling the plays this coming season?
Yeah, so the first part in regards to where we go schematically, what I would say is we are literally wrapping up as a coaching staff all of our scheme evaluation, which is a fun process in trying to figure out where we're at, what we want to do. Did we have an identity? What was it and why? Now, when you start developing, and as I said, teams change every year, you got to start knowing, okay, what's the strength of your team? Well, we're not 100% there yet because we still have the draft and we still have some pieces that we feel like offensively, defensively, special teams wise that we can add that can be significant. So once we know exactly where that's at, it'll help us. Now, knowing that going into this thing, having Andy as our quarterback, what we're able to do, and we'd be foolish to not do this, is go back and see the things that he does well, right? And then what things do we do well with specifically personnel wise, our players, now that we've been with them for 3 years, what are their strengths? And let's kind of, taper this offense towards that. So that's the part where now with this offensive coaching staff that we have, there were some new faces last year. We're now going into year 2 together. So not only for the player side, do they know the players, but we as coaches know the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And now we put that all together. Andy having a background with Bill, that definitely helps. There's a comfort level there, right? They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so that part is really good. And so now what we got to do is be able to say, okay, when the players get in here and we're rolling, like what are some of his strengths and weaknesses? And every quarterback is different. It's going to be different than Mitchell. It's going to be different than Nick. It's going to be different than what Alex Smith was at the end there in Kansas City. But that's the fun part. So that's that. And then as far as calling plays, I'm going to be the one calling the plays this year. And so I know you'll probably be asking that, so we can, I'll just let you know that from the front end. But that's an exciting thing for me to get back to knowing where we're at, and it's the fun part right now is building what we want to do better, getting that right with coaches and players that are going to be with us.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. Ryan mentioned the fit with the offense as being a key to signing Dalton. What exactly does that mean? How does a better fit at quarterback make you a better offense?
Well, every team, every quarterback, every situation is a little bit different. And I think when you talk about fit, there's a lot of different things that go into it. And we all, without getting into specifics, meaning what Ryan's talking about, that's something that we keep to ourselves as to what we like. We're not going to sit here and talk about the weaknesses of a specific player. And so we know what the strengths and weaknesses are of every player on our team. And so when we talk about fit, I think probably some of that goes to schematically some of the things that Andy has done in his career, in his 10 years in this league, that fits schematically some of the stuff that we have done here in the past 3 years, right? Now, some things will be a little bit different. There's going to be some things that Andy likes that Mitch and Nick hated, and vice versa. But we're going to work together to be able to figure out what that is. And so, as a personnel department, as Ryan as the GM, myself as the head coach, and our coaching staff, when we collectively came together and said that, hey, when you go through free agency and you look at everybody that's available, right? It was really a strong consensus for us to get Andy in here and move forward with him as a starting quarterback.
We have time for 2 more. Mark Grody.
Hi, Matt. Kind of following up with Andy Dalton, the starter. Did some of the competition that you guys have last year that maybe slowed down your progress early in the season, did that go into the consideration as to why there is no quarterback competition this year and Andy Dalton is the undisputed number 1?
No, I don't think so. But I could also understand why you asked that question, because I think there is for some situations you can see like that. Those are valuable reps, and we knew going into last year, which was a different year, that's where we were at. We were going to have a competition with Mitch and Nick this year. Depending on what happens with the OTAs in the off season, we'll take every rep we can get with the ones and with him as the starter. And we'll do the same thing in training camp. But at the same point in time, I can't say that was a determining factor, but it's certainly a part of it. And I think when you do have that guy that going into it, you feel good about it, helps out.
Last one, Chris Emma.
Matt, you spoke last season after giving up the play calling about the benefits you thought were there for you to kind of see the team from a different view. What led you to the decision that you're going to take over back as the play caller, how did the scheme evaluation lead to this kind of point?
Yeah, I mean that's for me, again, without getting into too much of last year. There's a lot of things that go into that, and When we look through the scheme eval and where we're at, it was for me just something that I feel good about, and it's I'm not real. That's like a minor deal for us right now. We're just going through all this stuff, this film, and seeing where we're at. We got bigger things to worry about than that. So it's just that's where we're at right now.
We're all set. Thanks for your time this morning, Coach.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.
The Bears pretty much known for their defense, and Sean Desai has talked about trying to get back to what they were doing under Vic Fangio until he left for Denver through 2018. I'm wondering how much you know about that defense and your thoughts about it, and how you think you might fit in it.
I just know, the Bears defense, has always had great players. They always fly around, aggressive, get to the ball, create turnovers, cause havoc. The front is always, applying pressure, and guys in the back end making plays. So I'm just, I'm excited for the opportunity, to fit right in, to bring my energy to the field and, play hard, take my respect, from the city of Chicago.
Adam Johns.
Hey, Desmond, this is Adam Johns from The Athletic in Chicago. My question is kind of going off that. What are your first impressions of Sean Desai in the conversations you had with him? And then second, what do you think of Jalen Johnson, a rookie last year going into his second year?
Well, first off, the conversations we had, he told me, he was glad I was there. That, he likes my game. He likes how I play. He said I fit right in, with the scheme and how we play, how he wants the corners to be aggressive, to tackle, to, make plays on the ball, just to be active, to be, game wreckers. And, he said he wants me to, giving me the opportunity to come in and compete. So, I can't, I got nothing to complain about. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And, I can't wait for the opportunity, to get to work. And as far as Jalen, I've seen his game. He's a good young corner. Got a lot of potential. Just got to keep grinding and keep working. I'm looking forward, to hooking up with him and working.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Desmond, I'm Colleen Kane from the Chicago Tribune. Kind of going off that about Jalen, obviously there's some young corners in this group. What do you think you can do with your experience to kind of help them?
Yeah, well, that's, I'm here to do, whatever is asked of me, obviously, I got a lot of experience in this game, played against a lot of, great players, had a lot of success in this league as well, too. So anything that they need as far as, technique, just anything off the field, just, the longevity of the game, just anything. I'm here. I'm a resource for them. So, I can't wait to, get around the guys and, show them how hard I work, show them that, how committed I am to this game and being a great player. So, I lead by example. So I'm looking forward to it.
Pat Finley.
Yeah, hi. This is Patrick Finley from the Chicago Sun-Times. I'm curious what you learned about last year, and can you walk us through kind of the hamstring issues? And it seemed like there was a lot of stuff that kind of didn't let you, leave the impression you wanted in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, I just was dealing with the hammy. It was just a lingering injury for me. I think I came back a little too early the first time. I tweaked it, and it kind of just lingered on. Played on a run of like 4 or 5 games, played pretty solid. And then, then it went out on me again. So it just was one of those years, bro. It's hard to explain, but, I'm doing different things with my recovery and, just training those areas, my hips, my hamstrings, just the whole pelvis area, to have more strength and durability. But, I'm healthy now. I'm working, grinding. So, I'm looking forward and ready to make an impact.
What will playing on natural grass do for you? You've never had that on a home field before.
Yeah, it's a lot better on the body, definitely. Like you said, I played on turf my whole career, so it's definitely a lot better on the body, easier on the joints. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just looking forward just to, putting on that uniform and, showing what I could do.
Sean Hammond.
Hey, Desmond, Sean Hammond with Shaw Media here. Just curious, what excites you about playing alongside a guy like Eddie Jackson?
Well, he's really rangy. He's a game player. I mean, he's a game changer. He's a game record. You turn on the film, and on the back end, he's making plays all over the field. So I'm excited. There's a whole bunch of guys on that defense. I'm excited to play with. So, I'm looking forward to it. And I know I can just tell just from his film. He grinds. In the film room, and he prepares himself mentally and physically. So. I'm excited. I can't wait to, get out there with him.
Mark Grody.
Hey, Desmond, it's Mark Grody from The Score and WBBM. You come in here and you're obviously going to get a chance to start at corner and, potentially replace Kyle Fuller. Does that get in your head at all when you think about Fuller and the success that he's had and how long he's been around, that you have to come in and try to fit in here after the success he had?
Not at all. I've been doing this a long time, so that's just part of the game. There's great players everywhere, and got a lot of respect for him. He's done it at a high level for a long time, but, this is the game. I want to, no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I'm trying to dominate. I'm trying to be the best I can be on the field. So, I'm just looking forward to bonding with my new teammates and, learning this playbook. And just getting after it, and just show the team, show the city what I'm about.
And what's the picture of you? That's you in the background there. What is that? When is that from there?
Nah, that ain't me. That's Nipsey Hussle. That's a rapper. Actually, he passed away recently, a year ago. So just one of my favorite rappers.
Gotcha.
Hub.
Hey, Desmond, it's Hub again. I don't know if you caught it with the mute at the beginning, but I'm also with Shaw Media and Pro Football Weekly, and glad that it was Grody who embarrassed himself not knowing who Nipsey Hussle was. So, yeah, I've actually got two questions, if you don't mind. Going back to the Kyle thing for a minute, have you watched him enough to really know about his style, and how would you compare and contrast you two in any way?
I mean, yeah, I've definitely watched him a lot. Like I said, I think he came in a year or two after me. I don't remember, but he's been doing it, at a high level since he came in the league. He's very patient in his off coverage. He could press, he tackles. He's well rounded, and I feel like I'm a similar player as well. I use my feet, to get to the spot quicker than the receivers. I'm very instinctive. I'm competitive, I'm aggressive. So, I feel like I fit right in to this scheme. That's one of the reasons why I came here. I like how they let the corners play and let them, take their shots. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to making a lot of plays.
The other question is different. What's your reaction? Obviously, COVID has sucked for everybody, and it's been a strange year. But what, if any, is your reaction to this free agency and how few guys are getting, multi-year big deals and everybody being forced to take these one-year prove-it deals?
Yeah. I mean, that's just the times we're in. Nobody expected this. Nobody could have predicted something like this would happen. But, I mean, we still got the game. We're still able, to do what we love. So, I'm just thankful for that. And every year is a prove-it year in the NFL. You got to go out there and take your respect, earn your respect, and earn what they paying you. So it is what it is. And I just look at it as an opportunity, to prove, what I can do.
Thanks, Desmond.
We're going to do two more for Desmond. Adam Johns.
Desmond, I was going to ask you to expand on what maybe appealed to you about the Bears, but I think you answered some of that. So kind of going off that, like being in your 30s, how does your approach maybe to this season differ from the past, especially joining a team, like you said, that has a proven track record defensively and stars, and Eddie Jackson, Roquan Smith, Akeem Hicks, and Khalil Mack?
Well, like I said earlier, this season, I'm hungry. I'm trying to. I had it was a down year for me. I was out. I was in and out the lineup. Couldn't do, what I wanted to do. I made some plays, but it wasn't good enough. Wasn't up to my standard because I wasn't in the lineup. So I'm just first, I'm trying to make sure I'm healthy and available to, do what they brought me in to do. So that's number one. But I know if I take care of that, everything else is going to take care of itself. I'm a professional. I've been doing this a long time. I know how to be successful in this league and what that looks like and what it feels like. So I'm just focused on, being healthy, bonding with my teammates, learning the playbook, and everything else is just, natural instinct for me.
Last one quick, Patrick Finley.
What was the Bears' pitch to you to bring you here?
Obviously they love my game, but, they said it ain't too many guys walking around like Khalil Mack, so I know you want to play with him. So, yeah, they was right. You don't get too many opportunities to play with a guy like him. He's a, Hall of Fame type player, so nothing but respect for what he's been able to do. And, and I know he's going to continue to do what he does, and that makes my life easier, as a corner, when you got guys up front that's getting pressure like that. So, like I said, I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I'm gonna take advantage of it for sure.
I think we're all set. Desmond, thanks for taking the time to talk to everyone today.
All right, appreciate it.
We had the great mayor, Lori Lightfoot, on with us, and we talked a little bit about the Bears and Coach Nagy. And if you will, take a listen to what the mayor said about Matt Nagy as play calling and Mitchell Trubisky. Give me a second here.
Is Nick Foles the answer? We're going to see once they get out on the field and start putting it together on the offense. But the inconsistency of Trubisky over these last few years, it's just, even in the year that we had a great run, what you saw, I think, last year was the inconsistent offense. It wasn't producing. I thought the play calling was very pedestrian.
So Mayor Lightfoot joined us earlier this year, and those were her thoughts regarding the Bears brass as far as the coaching was concerned, as far as the play calling was concerned, and her views and thoughts on Mitchell Trubisky. How do you respond to that?
Well, Mayor Lightfoot is a great example of what it means to be a Bears fan. She's passionate. She's opinionated. She thinks that she knows what's best for the Bears, and she wants the Bears to meet her expectations. We welcome that from Mayor Lightfoot and all Bears fans. When we made the decision that we announced this past week, we understood that not everyone was going to agree with it. Maybe the majority of Bears fans would be against it, but we all want the same thing. We want the Bears to be winners. We may have different ideas about how to get there, but we all want the Bears to be successful, including the mayor.
TheRewindSports60.com.
reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
If it's Chicago sports you want, you're in the right place.
Hello, Chicago!
The Rewind Sports 60.
That's the best in the city of Chicago.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. WCPT. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. WCPT.
This the coldest boys show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chillin' with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Rouse and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse.
Ladies and gentlemen, watch your headphones over there, buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're streaming live on Facebook, broadcasting from the world's famous illustrious studios of WCPT, 8:20 a.m. in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago, in a great neighborhood of Jefferson Park. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. So sit back, strap it down, and let's rock and roll. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. And let's get to him, ladies and gentlemen. You love him. Not over at Wrigley Field yet. 85,000 plus. Well, actually, the attendance is going to go up. The great Lori Lightfoot said, the mayor, Lori Lightfoot said, hey, she said, hey, up to 25%. He's not over at Wrigley Field, ladies and gentlemen. No, sir, Reed Bob. He's not over at Guarantee Rate where the Chicago White Sox and future World Series champions play on the Sundays or summer. He's not over at Wintrust Arena for the DePaul Blue Demons, who are still in search of a new basketball coach. I don't know why they brought Lato back in the first place, but hey, they did. They're looking for a head coach. He's not over at the United Center. No, not checking out the Bulls game. Only the Bulls. Only the Bulls. Not checking out the Chicago Blackhawks. No, sirree. He's not even over there getting his vaccine because I think he's already got his first shot. Ladies and gentlemen, he's in the studios of WCPT. You love him. He's the best of the business. He's known as the marvelous one. He's Dan Marvel. What's up, Marvel?
Hey, Jerry. How are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm very busy today. Watching the Sweet 16, and and after I saw Memphis win the NIT and Gonzaga was blowing out Creighton, I for some reason I flipped to this great program that you should watch that I sent you a text about. The Day Sports Stood Still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to promote it, but it's on HBO.
Why not?
and it's mostly Chris Paul, and you know who actually one of the producers is? Opie Taylor, Ron Howard.
Ron Howard.
It's very well done. I mean, I can't believe they chronicled everything so well.
Really?
With the day with Rudy Gobert and Houston was about to play Oklahoma City. Utah was about to play Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like chronicled so completely. And they had a lot of other contributors, but I would recommend that program. And also, you were talking about the Bulls. I mean, I had to do some research, and we'll get into this if we have time. But when the Bulls got this Nikola Vukovic from Orlando, the All-Star center, everybody was saying, okay, this will help their playoff position. I said, what do you mean? They're in spot number 10. Well, spot number 10 is a play-in position this year. 8 will play 7. 7's in. Then 9 plays 10. The winner of that plays the loser of 7, 8, and must beat them twice to be 8. Be 8. So 10 is actually a playoff position, if you can believe it.
Wow. Well, I can believe it. It's been crazy, and it's the documentary is the day the
Sports stood still.
Stood still, and it was interesting. Just a year ago, March 2020,
Right.
it was unbelievable. I
Right.
can remember I was in Hawaii, and when Rudy Gobert
Right.
was touching all the microphones
Right.
and everything, and people were upset about it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the president at the time said, "Hey, everybody's banned. If you're not in the United States, you're in any other parts of the country and the world, you can't come back in." And we were panicking because my youngest daughter, who's a junior at the time, she was a sophomore at the University of Illinois. She was in where was she? She's over in Spain. She was over in Spain, and we had to get her out of there. And luckily, we had to pay some extra bucks to make it happen. But we were able to get her home because the ban went into effect. What was that?
Right.
Friday night or Saturday morning or something like that?
Yeah.
That weekend. And we were blessed and fortunate enough to be able to get her a ticket, airline ticket out of Spain, and get her back home safely. But that was quite something as far as
I mean, it just
the year was concerned.
The thing that's really great is they're showing in real time. It's like the stunning expressions, even of all the players. They even the owner of Dallas was
Mark
talked
Cuban.
to. Yeah.
Mark Cuban.
And
His
Chris
reaction was phenomenal. It was unbelievable.
And Chris Paul's. It's like they have an announcement that tonight's game will. And so it was like everybody's like looking at one another. What's going on? It was like everybody's befuddled. It was like they were in a dream or a nightmare or a movie or something.
Exactly.
So it was interesting to see it in real time.
Yeah, it was well to see it in real time and a year later for sure. And again, it's on HBO. If people want to check it out, certainly get an opportunity to take a look at that for sure. But in the meantime, it's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Yours truly, Jerry Riles, and of course, the one, the only, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. And we got a great show on tap as we always do. But the one thing that I wanted to talk about, we got some great guests coming up, so we want to make sure you guys and girls keep it locked in. The number here is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. You want to chime in, you want to jump in, feel free to give us a buzz before we're out of here. But real quick, before we get to our first guest, there's some interesting Charles Barkley said it, and congratulations to all the teams who have advanced in the March Madness, the NCAA tournament for 2021, for advancing. And unfortunately, the Loyola Ramblers weren't able to get past Oregon State to continue that run. They're not a Cinderella story anymore, of course, because of the 2018 run. But unfortunately, they didn't play the top-notch basketball they played against the Fighting Illini last weekend. And Porter Moser's team had to bow out of the Big Dan. Right. So for those who are still in the tournament, March Madness continues. For those teams who have been eliminated, knocked out, March Sadness has sunken in for sure.
It's amazing. I mean, even a Cinderella like number 15, Oral Roberts, lost to a buzzer beater to Arkansas. So there you almost had a 15 in the Elite Eight.
Exactly.
Which has never happened.
Yeah, exactly. And what that was one of the best games, if not the best game of the night yesterday. Yeah. And the desperation 3-pointer at the end of regulation. Wow. Can you imagine if he had made the basket?
Would have been,
it would, everyone was on pins and needles because, and as a Buckeye fan, I was pulling for them for the simple fact that they eliminated my Ohio State Buckeyes, and we're like, I continue to scratch my head. Oral Roberts, and no offense to the student body and the alumni association of Oral Roberts, but Oral Roberts,
right?
It's unbelievable. But
in a given day, in one game, things can happen. And as far as Loyola is concerned, I'm thinking maybe it's time for them to move up, maybe go to the Big East and switch places with DePaul. That might be good for both sides.
Well, let's see what happens with DePaul and their hunt for a new head coach.
No matter what happens, if they can be 500 in the conference, that would be amazing. And they've been recruiting well too, but it's just something that they just can't really get it together to be at the top of the Big East, and it's a challenge, frankly. There are a lot of good teams there, but they just don't seem to. They've been in last place 5 straight years.
It's coaching and recruiting.
Yeah, right.
It's coaching and recruiting. And who said this during the telecast? I'm trying to remember who it was, because the Ohio State Buckeyes were playing to open up the tournament. And if you can remember who was doing the game, please remind me. But the question that was asked, because E.J. Liddell is out of Bellevue, and he's a 2-time Mr. Basketball Mr. Illinois, 2-time. He's playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ayo DeSumo, of course, playing with the University of Illinois. But the number of players that have left the Chicagoland / Illinois area and gone to other programs, it's and this has been happening for decades now. You scratch your head and go, why is all this talent from Chicago / Illinois leaving to go to other programs?
If you're talking about Oral Roberts, Ohio State, it was Ian Eagle and was the play-by-play guy, so it might have been.
Who was the color guy? I can't remember.
Well, the color guy was supposed to be Spinarco, but he was COVID.
No, it wasn't Spinarco.
So they substituted the third man in the crew with Raftery and Nance.
Well, whatever the case may be, I don't know. It could have been Dan Bonner. Thanks, Paul Shafari. Checking in with us. It could have been doing a Big Ten tournament. Whatever the case may be, the message was, how come so much talent, homegrown talent in Chicago / Illinois, leave to go to other programs?
Yeah.
And that's the whole key there.
Right.
That's the whole key for these local schools, whether it's and
it was probably Hill because he did the Big Ten. Andy was on that Ohio State.
It was Grant Hill.
Yeah,
it was Grant Hill.
definitely,
It was Grant Hill. But the point of the matter is, he's trying to get across how come all this talent is leaving the city and the state to go play someplace else, and it's all recruiting. And it's interesting because I thought when Chris Collins at Northwestern got the gig, that he was going to be able to lure more talent to stay home and go over. I thought he was going to build that program up to be somewhat, i.e., Duke Midwest. I thought he was going to be able to do that. That I believe that's the big problem for schools like Loyola, schools like DePaul, schools like and Loyola's doing a pretty good job of keeping the home-based kids, I believe. They're doing a very good job of keeping home-based kids as much as they can. But to me, and no offense to these kids, these are kids who are second-tier players on a high school level. And they couldn't make the big program, so they take the second tier, they go to Loyola, and they get a great coach, and they make a name for themselves. Hence, the program is on the upswing as far as respectability and credibility is concerned. But the point of the matter is, DePaul shouldn't be losing talent the way that they are based on where they're located. Loyola should be able to have more talent. UIC should be able to have more talent. It's just that these bigger programs offer a bigger stage for them, whether it's Duke, whether it's North Carolina, whether it's Kansas. They offer something bigger and better, and it's a struggle. It's a challenge.
I mean, as far as Krutwig is concerned, he wasn't recruited heavily out of Algonquin Jacobs.
Right, of course not.
And there's an example of somebody that turned out to be one of the best players in the country, but yet he wasn't much of a recruiting target.
Right, because he would not have found any playing time playing down in Champaign. Would not have found any playing time playing in a major program. He may not have even made the team. So this is an opportunity for those young kids. And again, congratulations to them and great job and great effort. You got to put the work in. But this is an opportunity for them to extend their playing career once leaving high school. But most of them don't have the opportunity to go to a major program because they simply don't have the skill set, more or less, to play at that high level.
Right, but I mean, in recruiting, I mean, if you look at it, guys like Charlie Moore and Javon Freeman Liberty are considered high recruits, but yet they didn't produce results.
Well, I mean, there's other factors that go into it. And you guys might say, Riles, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, maybe or maybe not, but the proof is in the pudding. The programs are still bobbing up and down in the water because they haven't stabilized themselves. They haven't built a foundation strong enough that they can stay there. Now, Loyola's on the rise, but they still got work to do. They're kind of like the Gonzaga.
Right.
20 years ago.
And they have the advantage that they're going to be able to win their conference, even if they have a little less talent than this year.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put the work in. And again, the Loyola Ramblers did a hell of a job busting their tails and proving people wrong and fighting. And, of course, they were on the national stage, and they told Illinois and they told the world, the basketball world, we can play with them.
Right.
We're the real school of Chicago.
Right. That Illinois game was amazing. I mean, and their abbreviated non-conference season, they did lose to Richmond and Wisconsin, which begs the point, how strong were they overall? And they lost to Drake and Indiana State in their own conference. So it was hard. I mean, we were arguing among us that maybe they should have had a higher seed, but the seeding sometimes, is based upon a lot of factors other than, the team's ranking, because they look at the conference the team plays in too, I believe.
Yeah, I understand that, but again, you can't be the 17th ranked team in the country and then get an 8 seed in the tournament.
Sure.
That's ridiculous.
Right.
That's BS. But I think the selection committee, I think they said, you know what, we want this matchup,
Right.
this Illinois.
I think
University of Illinois, and then we want that. But they
right. If you look at prior years, I think your Wichita States, your Northern Iowas were never any higher than 9 or 8. So
no, I understand that, and I get that, but come on now. But the point of the matter is, I think they wanted to see that matchup sooner rather than later.
Right.
It would have been better later.
Yeah.
but they wanted to see the matchup, and they thought that they felt that they needed something, a shot in the arm to get people pumped up about it.
And it's nice. I love the tournament, but it seems a little sterile still without fans and without multiple locations. It does
there
seem
are
a
no
little,
fans in there.
Yeah, it does seem a little unnatural compared to the normal situation, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, it is the fastest hour in sports conversation. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. Of course, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Here's something that came across the wire earlier this week, and I said, you know what? We got to get on this thing, and we got to discuss it, because I don't know, Marver, if this is a trend. Is this something that we got to open our eyes and keep our eyes on? But earlier this week, the Arkansas governor signs a transgender sports ban into law. Let me read that headline again, ladies and gentlemen. Arkansas governor signs a transgender sports ban into law. Arkansas Republican governor has signed a law banning transgender women and girls from competing in school sports teams consistent with their gender identity. When you heard of that news, what went across your mind?
I've been following that too, but through the conservative Republican South Dakota governor Noem, who actually thought it didn't go so far enough. In a way, she thought she was actually very critical of the NCAA, and in terms of repeatedly on interviews as to the fact that they don't have any strong voice in this. But we were talking off the air. I mean, if a biologic male is competing in swimming or track and field in an individual sport, obviously it's going to be tough for the biological female to compete. So it is a little unfair in that regard. But I do understand that in this day and age of equality, somebody that identifies as female, who is biological male, feels that they should be competing in female sports. But it almost seems unfair, when you look at it logically.
Yeah, it does seem unfair, because traditionally, from when you grew up to now, and when I've grown up to now, it's been identified as girls play girl sports and guys play guy sports.
I would almost argue that there should be a third category. They should compete against one another. That category of folks. But it's not going to happen.
Well, you never know. Stranger things have happened, and some people look at this as being strange. Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson on Thursday signed a law banning transgender women and girls from competing in school sports teams consistent with their gender identity, making the state the second to approve such a restriction so far this year. The Republican governor approved the measure despite objections from medical and child welfare groups that it would have devastating impacts on transgender youth. Hundreds of college athletes have also urged the NCAA to refuse to hold championships in states that enact such bans. Ladies and gentlemen, he's on our TRS60 hotline. He's a friend of the program. He's ACLU Director of Communications and Public Policy at the ACLU here in Illinois. He is known as Ed Yonka. He's a friend of the program on the Rewind Sports 60 WCPT 820 AM. Ed, how are you? Welcome back to the program, my good friend.
To be back here this evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank goodness the weather is finally turning for the better as far as temperatures are concerned. I'm sick of the snow and the cold. May have to deal with the rain, but like the pandemic, hopefully the light is at the end of the tunnel, my good friend. Thanks for asking, and thanks for taking some time out to join us on the program. When this came across on Thursday regarding, banning transgenders from participating in sports, unless they have to be the only way they're going to be accepted if they were on their birth certificate say if you're born female, that's how you're going to be identified. But of course, now we know that there are a lot of transgender people that, they feel they were born one way, but they feel that they are the opposite sex. So if you're a male born, you feel that, hey, I'm a female, and you start to make, the necessary actions that you need to make to fulfill your what you feel is who you are as a human being, as an individual. Your thoughts on this decision to ban the transgender sports ban down in Arkansas?
So first of all, you guys were right in that there were 20 bills introduced in 2020 in different states that would ban transgender athletes at the high school or college level from participating in sports. We've also seen lawsuits against more inclusive policies in the state of Connecticut, and I think we'll see some of those policies in other areas around the country. I want to say one thing before I sort of respond to this generally. It is the height of hypocrisy that the people who are pushing these bans claim they are defending women's sports when these are people who couldn't find Title IX with a map at any point in the last 20 years, who have never supported equal funding for women athletes across this country, and who have never thought that was some kind of an equality that we should move towards. So the idea that they are somehow, suddenly want to protect the integrity of women's sports is just an absurdity. But I think what we're seeing is these sorts of bans are built on a series of myths. We actually heard one of them before, and I don't mean to pick on you guys, but talking about, there's this idea that, the characteristics that one has at birth would somehow create an unfair advantage. Someone who is, a transgender female who was declared male at birth, and we can talk about why that happens, but someone like that would have an unfair advantage in athletics. But, transgender people are no different than all the rest, everyone in society, that they have different abilities for a range of different things. They have different intellectual abilities. They have different capacity, in terms of arts and other things. And they have a different athletic capacity. So there is no evidence across the board that, somehow allowing transgender folks to participate fully and equally in sports, makes a difference in terms of the competition. I think the other thing is that, there's this sense that this harms or this keeps out doesn't give women as many opportunities to engage in sports, get scholarships, all those other kinds of things. The problem is that, these kinds of laws are going to create what, one of my colleagues at our national office is called, gender police in sports. What we're going to start to see as these bans are enforced is women who are not transgender but just are more masculine being policed, being tested, being checked. And again, I think it just reinforces all of the mythologies about young women and women in particular somehow needing protection of men in the legislature. This is just a bad policy in every single way that one can think of.
Here's the governor of Arkansas, his quote when signing the bill into law. He said, "This law simply says that female athletes should not have to compete in a sport against a student of the male sex when a sport is designed for women's competition." Hutchinson said in a statement released by his office, he goes on to say, "As I have stated previously, I agree with the intention of this law. This will help promote and maintain fairness in women's sporting events." Now, I read that, Ed, and I appreciate you coming on. And I have to ask you this question for those who may support the governor of Arkansas and oppose what you're saying. I have a personal experience where I was doing some boxing to get myself back in the physical shape. I got to get my beach bod on, right? And I think it's safe to say the boxer's name, Fallon Fox. She was one of the trainers at the gym that I was working out at. Now, I was totally unaware, oblivious, so I just took her as a female because that's how she approached me, as a female. One of her last days working at this gym while I was training, one of her co-workers said, that used to be a guy. And I go, get the hell out of here, because she's beautiful. I said, no, that's not. She said, yeah, that used to be a guy. I go, no. He goes, Google her name and I Googled, and Fallon Fox was a guy. I think out of the Detroit, Michigan area, was a guy. And she had she did her transition or whatever the case may be. She's if you Google her, she went under so much scrutiny as a boxer because she was fighting, other female boxers, and it got so bad for Fallon Fox. Now, I accept her as a person, as an individual, whoever you are, as long as you treat me fairly and openly and honestly, I'm cool. I don't have a problem with anyone. She had so many setbacks and scrutiny against her that she was scheduled to box in Florida. They played her intro song, and forgive me for this, but it's the truth. Dude looks like a lady as she's marching out. She was devastated. She, he, whatever the case may be, nearly committed suicide after that incident that took place. But the point of the matter is, people in the boxing community who she was fighting, these other women, felt that it was unfair advantage because she used to be a male, to change her sex to a female to fight against other women, and she was pummeling them. They had no chance.
Let me suggest one thing to you, Jerry, just as a beginning, and this is just a fact. She has always been a female. She was simply mischaracterized and misgendered at birth. We know now far more about the science of gender than we did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And we know that, for example, your gender and your own perceived gender about yourself has much more to do with your makeup in your brain than it does with your makeup of your genitalia. And so the truth is that woman and other women who are now participating in sports have always been female. They just simply weren't identified that way for some period of time. And I think what we're seeing here, to broaden this out just a touch, there is an effort across the country on the part of some politically to castigate, to discriminate against people who are transgender as a means of separating folks, of a means of creating a culture war. And whereas, years ago, we will all, listen, we went through these same kinds of arguments, years ago about gays and lesbians participating in sports. Mm-hmm. And now we're just doing it again about someone else. It is always the same effort. Sports is a way of, just to be completely, transparent about this, and I think we all know this, sports is a way of belonging as a young person. It's a way of participating and being recognized with your peers and being around your peers. The effort here is to say to transgender people, you're not part of us. You can't be part of a team. You must be separated and be different and distinct. It is a cruel punishment. And the pretense that the governor of Arkansas knows more about the gender of a young woman in his state than she does is just ridiculous.
Yeah, this is Dan in the studio here. I just wanted to clarify something. I think you said that there's no evidence that a biological male cannot swim faster than a biological female or run faster than one. I'll give you an example. How about Bruce Jenner? What would have happen if he had competed in the Olympics as a woman? He would have won there too. But I'm just thinking that I think that in my own mind, that isn't there some evidence that a biological male can run faster than a biological female generally?
As a general rule, if you look over time and records and other things, that is true. I would also note that where you look at most of those kinds of situations, that the gap between, say, the records or the average time of female and male swimmers, just to use one example, has shrunk dramatically as, there's been additional training available. There's been equal training available for women athletes. But the other thing is that, remember, had Ms. Jenner been participating as a female in a decathlon or in some other event, they would have undergone a series of, medical procedures and be taking, a number of different medications that would have changed, some of that dynamic as well. So it isn't something that you can just point to, I think, often and make a generality that fits or that holds, for all people, for all people of whichever gender you're talking about in particular.
Thank you.
So thank you, Ed. So we appreciate that, and again, we appreciate your time on this Sunday to join us to talk about this real quick. Is this something that it was an eye opener for me? But is this something eye opening across the country in your eyes that people need to be much more aware about? Because again, there are two sides to every story, and there are some people who are traditionalists, Ed, that feel, hey, you're born a man. You're a man. You're born a woman. You're a woman. But I told my wife this earlier today. I said, listen, this world has been here for billions of years. It's been here forever. And there have been billions of people who've lived on this planet. I'm only one little guy. Who am I to judge anybody about anything? And so,
right.
So I'm not here to do any of that. But I'm here to try to help those of us who don't understand get a little bit better understanding, because again, I mean, like I said, and we talk about Bruce Jenner. That was a great example because, I mean, he kicked every guy's ass in the Olympics in 76 or whatever, and he's waving a flag and he's like the American man's man. And then, 30 years later, he's like, hey, I want to be like my mom. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. It sends a conflicting message to a lot of folks who grew up a certain way. But there are other people who, back during Bruce Jenner's time, and say, you know what? I wanted to, and he said it, I wanted to accentuate, I wanted to show who I really was inside, but I was afraid because of the social pressure. So how do we get beyond this and try to balance this thing out? Because at the end of the day, we're I'm knocking over the studio.
Easy.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all in this together. We really are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
I think it's a really good point. So let me say two things. First of all, it wasn't a surprise to me, Jerry, because this is something that we've seen evolving and developing over the past several years. And I'm going to say this, and I'll leave it at this. We have seen this sort of rise in singling out and trying to draft legislation that discriminates against people who are transgender really tick up ever since the freedom to marry was extended to gay and lesbian couples. The same forces, the same people, the same features that were in place to try to ban gay people from having part of our, part of kind of the public square are in place for this. So that's one part. In terms of what people can do, I would simply ask you, there's lots of information out there, for example, about people who are transgender, who are athletes at the high school level, who are athletes at the collegiate level, who are athletes in different places around the country. I would encourage people just to read or listen to their stories. I think that what has always moved me is because you're right. I can't live someone else's experience. I've never had that capacity or that ability. And of course, I don't think anybody else has ever lived my experience or known the things that I've known or seen the things that I've seen. But when you hear someone talk about knowing that they were in the wrong gender from the time that they were a child, when you hear someone say that, they hated their body and almost wanted to physically do damage to themselves, those are things that we all need to listen to and we can all learn from, quite frankly. And I think that, and I think your point is really well taken. It's sort of rather than, getting into the business of trying to judge, shame, or build some one-size-fits-all, that we really do a much better service for ourselves and for our communities, if we just listen. One last thing I'll say, I know I said one more thing, but one last thing I'll just say is, young people today get this. They understand the differences in gender that I could never have understood. I think if I were in high school or probably even when I was in college. And one of the things that I think is most powerful is that young people are able to simply meet folks, where they are and recognize them and let them be the narrators of their own story, as opposed to trying to ascribe a label to them, whether it's gender or race or a host of other things. And I think that's a model that many of us at, let's just say, a slightly more advanced age, would probably do well to sort of heed and listen to as well.
You know what, Ed Yonka, thank you so very much. Very well put. And I'm one of those people with the advanced age that have learned to listen more. I got two beautiful daughters. I got a beautiful son. I got some great friends, and all of them, they embrace people, and they judge people on good and bad, how they're treated, and it's helped me in my growth and my development as far as looking at people. Not to say that I looked at people in a certain light, but it's opened up my eyes a little bit more to embrace and accept people for who they are, regardless of what they decide to do. Because, hey, Ed, and we're going to let you go, but, there are some people that drink old-style beer. There are some people that drink Heineken beer. There are some people that drink, and I'm not making light of it, but there are some people that drink Budweiser, whatever the case may be. I was a Pabst Blue Ribbon guy, right? The point of the matter is, whatever you choose to do is up to you, as long as you don't hurt someone else. And
that's right. I mean, look, there are some people, I hear you guys, forced me to listen to this after last Sunday. Yeah. There are some people who root for Loyola, for goodness sake.
Well, you know what? We're all crying in our beers now, Ed Yonka. Thank you so very much, brother, for taking some time out. We really appreciate you. Keep up the great work you guys are doing over there at the ACLU, my good friend, and we'll certainly get a chance to talk with you, hopefully on some good news and some better news and some news that can help some folks out there, my good friend. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jerry. It's so good to talk to you again.
It's a pleasure, my good friend. Take care of yourself. Ed Yonka joining us on the Rewind Sports 60, WCPT 820 AM, ACLU Director of Communications and Public Policy at the ACLU of Illinois. And it's the fastest hour in sports conversation, ladies and gentlemen. If you have a comment, if you want to jump in real quick, it's short, but we certainly allow you to come in and be a part of the fastest hour in sports conversation. We transition to another sport and another school in the great city we call Chicago, and it's just outside of Chicago. And ladies and gentlemen, this guy is more than just a friend of the program. He's family. He's family, and I'm proud to say that, for the simple fact is, and he's not just coming on because he's supporting the show.
But that helps.
It does certainly help. But ladies and gentlemen, get used to hearing this gentleman's name. Because, and I think I'm on the right track when I put it out there. He's, and hopefully it's not a lot of pressure on the kid, but his goal, and I believe he's going to correct me if I'm wrong, his goal is to make the United States Olympic team as a wrestler. He's currently wrestling for the Wildcats of Northwestern University in Evanston, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
He's ranked 3rd in the country. He's an All-American, and he's on the Rewind Sports 60, WCPT 820 AM. He is Yaya Thomas. Yaya, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the program. Was that okay?
Yeah, no
did I miss anything? Is there anything that I missed in introducing you to the world?
No, you hit all the most important points. Yeah.
Yeah, the most important point. So clear. I want to be clear. Your goal is to make it to the 2021 Olympics in Japan. Is that right?
Well, okay, so that was my goal, but I've since then transitioned to the 2024 Olympics. So that's my new focus in terms of Olympics.
But it's still the Olympics, and it's still a goal of yours, and it may be pushed back with everything. And I'm guessing, is that because of everything that's transpired regarding the pandemic and somewhat stalling your progress as far as meeting your goals and your timeline?
Yeah, I think some of it had to do with just the season itself. I mean, obviously we have the NCAA season, which is completely different from any world or Olympic type events that are international. And that season was just kind of really long and grueling. And I think that I just want to give my body a little bit of rest, especially after competing at such a high level for such a long time. And I didn't really know that would be the case until right after the season. I just woke up and I was like, all right, I'm not going to be I'm not going to wrestle this week. It's just, and the thing is, it's a short turnaround time from the NCAAs to the Olympics. So basically we have a couple weeks before the Olympic trials, which is where I would have had to compete in order to actually win the spot. And it was just a lot. I think I just wanted to kind of take a break, get a little bit of rest, and kind of more focus on what's still the near future, 2024 Olympics.
Well, get everyone up to speed, and congratulations to you again for your third.
Thank you.
Your third rank in the country as an All-American. But
thank you.
Thank you. Get everybody up to speed as far as how you got to this point, because you just competed in the NCAA championship tournament, correct?
Right. Yep.
And you were ranked. Where were you ranked going into the tournament?
Going to the tournament, I was ranked 25.
You were ranked 25th in the country, and you had some tough matches, but you were able to overcome your opponents, and you took 3rd place, knocking off Boo Llewellyn of Oklahoma State.
Third place match.
To capture 3rd place in a 149-pound category. And to earn that 3rd ranking spot as a All-American champion here in the great state of in the great country of United States of America. But talk about that experience, my good friend.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a crazy experience. I had never been to the NCAA tournament before. Last year I had actually qualified, but obviously we didn't compete due to COVID-19. But this year was just this was a great experience, but I will say it was pretty chaotic. The tournament itself, and also just the different stipulations and stuff, and we having to go and test and deal with different things because of COVID, just made the tournament a little bit more a little bit harder to manage. But I think that overall it was kind of a great experience, and just kind of every match I felt like I got better. I can't really say that for a lot of other tournaments, but I think definitely going into the tournament, I felt better from previously in the season. And then as the tournament went on, I feel like I improved on especially in terms of technique and timing and just little things that kind of I felt like made me a better wrestler as the tournament went on, which was good because I was wrestling increasingly more difficult opponents as the tournament went on. So I thought that was kind of a big thing that helped propel me to success in the tournament, was just my ability to kind of adapt to the situation and also just kind of grow and meet the challenges that I had.
Yeah, this is Dan in the studio here. How you doing? I was going to say, I mean, we're just under 4 months away from the Tokyo Olympics, so I think you've made a good decision. Paris is a beautiful city too, and I think that I mean, there's still going to be a pandemic, so I think that even Tokyo is going to be a little different than a normal Olympics.
Yeah, it might be a little weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that with the protocols and everything, I haven't seen a lot of information about Olympic trials even for the sports that you'd normally see 4 months out. So I think Paris is a good choice. Things will hopefully be normal in 3 years.
Yeah, definitely. You'd think, right? Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, we're on with Yaya Thomas. He's a redshirt junior competing at the 140 pounds wrestler. He's, again, the third-ranked wrestler in the country in the NCAAs. And he's an All-American, so congratulations, and we appreciate you taking some time out to join us on this Sunday, my good friend.
Thank you.
I noticed on one, and I apologize we didn't have audio to play after your illustrious win, but I noticed that your right shoulder was a little bit bandaged up there. How's your injury? How's the injury to the shoulder? What's going on with that? And what's going to be the time frame to get back to business?
Yeah, so the shoulder tape was for kind of a pre-existing injury from earlier in the season, and it was kind of just a medical, kind of just way to make sure that I wasn't moving my shoulder into any positions that would like injure it any further. But yeah, that injury was kind of going back a couple months, and kind of just during the NCAA season. It's just, especially being in the Big Ten, you're just competing against so many high-level opponents and training so hard that eventually your body, eventually you just start to pick up little injuries. But that one was a little bit more substantial, so I'm letting myself rest for a reason, and I think that I'll be back to business pretty soon. I mean, my next competition should be coming up in the next couple months, and I'll be competing for I think I'll be competing for a world team spot at the U23 level. So not at the senior level, because obviously they'll have the Olympics, and there won't be a senior world team. But there will be Olympic team, and there will be a U23 team, which I plan on being.
Well, sounds good, and you certainly will be a part of it, and you're always a part of my heart, and I love you, and continue to
love you too.
Hey, continue to do your job, brother, and shine brightly like I know you certainly will. The family doing okay? I heard you guys. You didn't go down to Champaign this past weekend, did you?
Oh, yeah, I did, actually. I did. Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, all of us were just hanging out and stuff. That was really cool.
Yeah, the girls told me. The girls told me. Yeah. Well, man, thank you. I'm glad you got some downtime to spend with the family and everything. Keep up the good work, and we'll certainly be tracking you, my good friend.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care. Yaya Thomas, Northwestern Wildcats wrestler, third-ranked wrestler in the country. All-American. Congratulations to him. Outstanding family. His dad is fantastic. The whole family is awesome. They're competitive, they're talented, and they're just great individuals, and they're part of the family. And of course, I set a good example for them. I set a good example for them. We got to transition because it is the fastest hour in sports conversation, ladies and gentlemen. And this guy sets a great example for those living in the northern suburbs of Chicago, in the town of Wheeling, and he's got some more work to do. And he is. I try to surround myself with just phenomenal people. I really do. And for the most part, I got to say that I've done a good job of doing that. Of course, Marvelous, you are fantastic. Paul Shabari. I thought I was
the exception.
No, you're a fantastic individual. I love you. And this guy that's on our TRS60 hotline, he's a friend of the program, and I just love what he's doing in the town of Wheeling. And I'm looking forward to him continue to do the good job and the good work in Wheeling for the next 4 years. He's on our TRS60 hotline, ladies and gentlemen. He is a friend of the program. He's Pat Horker, the village president of Wheeling, Illinois. Pat, how are you, buddy?
I am good. I am busy, but I am so happy to be here talking to you.
Well, you know what? We're not going to keep you. We just appreciate you taking some time out on this Sunday. You are definitely a busy man, whether it's working for the town of Wheeling or doing your side job by providing my beautiful wife with flowers every time I come into your shop over there, my good friend. So I thank you for that.
That's my main job. That is how. Well, no, that's the Village of Wheeling. We're a council manager form of government, and what that means is we have. In case you hadn't noticed, politicians aren't generally or always the brightest ones in the room, but in a council manager form of government, we can have trained, certified experts in all the different fields that are required. Like an elected official doesn't necessarily know how to be the finance director or the human services or the village manager. You have to be certified to be a village manager. But if I was a mayor, I could go and just appoint, Mo, Larry, and Curly, and that would be their jobs. But because we have the form of government we do, the council manager form of government, I can only work with the village manager, and he can only be appointed or fired by a vote of a majority of the board. So there's this system of checks and balances. Whereas, so that's why we have such excellent people in charge of our various departments, like economic development and community development. If it was a mayor, it could be anybody that be, like I said, not always the brightest guy in the rooms. But the mayor can pick, you're in charge, and that's it. So yeah, we've done a lot, and so it's a great system, and I'm very happy with it.
Well, thank you.
What else can I talk about? What can I talk about?
Well, the one thing I wanted to talk with you, I know the elections are coming up real soon, and I want to make sure that people get out who are living in the Wheeling area to get out and support you, because you've done a heck of a job. And especially, Pat, if you can, briefly just share what the experience was like for you during the pandemic, because we touched on it here early in the show, a year ago, March 2020, how the world of sports stopped. Mm-hmm. And it just caught all of us blindsided with this pandemic. What was it like for you as the village president running a town such as Wheeling with approximately, give or take a few numbers, 34, 35, 36,000 people living in it? What was it like for you to handle a pandemic and keep everything balanced and afloat?
What I tried to do, and what all of the incumbents tried to do, was look at it from a rational, reasonable perspective. There were some towns around us that immediately signed this emergency. There was an emergency purchasing order or emergency authorization order I could have signed, and what it would have done is this is one example of what we did. It would have allowed our village manager to go in and make emergency purchases for anything to do with the disaster. And so I sat down with our manager, John Spondillis, and I said, John, do we need any more of the Tyvek suits or the respirators or the hand sanitizer? And he's like, no. And the fact of the matter is he has a spending card where he has a pretty high limit to begin with. And I said, John, we're not going to buy a hospital. We're not going to buy an ambulance. I tell you what, how about if you think of something that we're actually going to need, I'll come in and sign the paper. But I didn't sign it because I know a lot of people signed it because, it was their way of being able to say, look, this is what I did for the community, but it was unnecessary. But what we did do was and there was dissension on the board, and I love dissension because that means we can discuss things and we can have. Well, no, it's excellent for the group because it means people are thinking in different directions, and then you can get some sort of clever, responsible, correct answer. Some of the towns around us were involved in these lawsuits where they were suing the governor to do what they wanted, and I saw the governor on one of his newscasts one day saying that he doesn't have to involve himself in lawsuits. He doesn't have to, send troops in to enforce restaurants closing. He can just pull liquor licenses. And so in my mind, what that said was, these lawsuits aren't going to benefit anybody except the lawyers.
Pat, you got. I'm sorry, you got 20 seconds.
We signed up for every penny that was available to us in all the different programs, and we got it, and that's how we were able to balance the budget last year. And we're actually looking at balancing the budget in the year up ahead, regardless of what people say.
No worries. Hey, Pat, thank you so very much. It is the fastest hour in sports conversation. We certainly appreciate you, and keep up the great work you're doing, both for the Village and, of course, the Flowers.
And Pat, it's good to talk to you. I'm Dan from the studio. As a bit of trivia, I think I was your banker once at American Enterprise Bank.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat, thank you. I'll certainly be in contact, my good friend. God bless you. Good luck with everything, and take care of the family. Hope everyone's doing well.
Thank you so much for the call. Good luck, you too.
He's the best. Pat Horker, our Village president of Wheeling. Hey, it's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Yours truly, Jerry Rouse. Marver!
Hey, it's Elite Eight, Monday and Tuesday. Go for it.
Sounds
be
good.
Great.
Thanks to Paul Shivari for filling in for Devin Tango. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everybody.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
We had the great mayor, Lori Lightfoot, on with us, and we talked a little bit about the Bears and Coach Nagy. And if you will, take a listen to what the mayor said about Matt Nagy as play calling and Mitchell Trubisky. Give me a second here.
Is Nick Foles the answer? You know, we're going to see once they get out on the field and start putting it together on the offense. But the inconsistency of Trubisky over these last few years, it's just, even in the year that we had a great run, what you saw, I think, last year was the inconsistent offense. It wasn't producing. I thought the play calling was very pedestrian.
So Mayor Lightfoot joined us earlier this year, and those were her thoughts regarding the Bears brass as far as the coaching was concerned, as far as the play calling was concerned, and her views and thoughts on Mitchell Trubisky. How do you respond to that?
Well, Mayor Lightfoot is a great example of what it means to be a Bears fan. She's passionate. She's opinionated. She thinks that she knows what's best for the Bears, and she wants the Bears to meet her expectations. We welcome that from Mayor Lightfoot and all Bears fans. You know, when we made the decision that we announced this past week, we understood that not everyone was going to agree with it. Maybe the majority of Bears fans would be against it, but we all want the same thing. We want the Bears to be winners. We may have different ideas about how to get there, but we all want the Bears to be successful, including the mayor.
How's it going?
Good, Dan. How you been?
Good. Ryan was very detailed just now in kind of explaining the attraction to Andy and what you guys see in him. I'm curious, though, with Nick. The reason Andy's here is because Nick fell short of the expectations you guys had for him a year ago. Why do you think that was?
Well, so a couple things. First of all, is I think, you know, every year is a little bit different, and there's different whys behind all of it. And when you look at the way that things went last year, it took us a little bit with the change that we made, of starting Nick at the beginning there, that third, fourth game in the season, into him getting hurt in that Minnesota game and then going back to Mitch. And within there were some things that went on, and whether it was just so many different variables. And I think when you look at the season and why did we bring Nick in last year, it was a competition to battle with Mitch. And no one was just handed the job. They had to fight for it. And we knew that going into it. Nick knew that going into it. Mitch knew that going into it. And we let them battle it out. At the same point in time, we knew that if Mitchell wins the job, we know what Nick has been as a backup in this league. We also know that if Nick wins the job, we know what he's been as a starter in this league. So there's so many different things that go into it. And that takes you now to this year. And, Nick and I have had some great conversations as to things that went on last year and the whys behind everything, which is very valuable. And obviously I keep that to Nick and myself. But there's so many different things that go into it. Well, now this year being new, we bring a new quarterback into play with Andy as the starter, and Nick understands that. And so the process that we go about through this isn't just like a one-day process. There's a lot that goes into it. And we feel like this is the best for us as an organization right now. And things are always fluid every year. And this is where we're at right now. And we're excited about it. And Nick understands where we're at. Andy understands where we're at. Our coaches know, Ryan, myself. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So that's there's just a process to it.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Pat?
I'm okay. I have a Trubisky question for you. This is the first time we've talked to you since he wound up with the Bills. When you came in, they brought you in part to help develop Trubisky into a franchise quarterback. With the benefit of hindsight now and with some finality to his Bears career, looking back, can you put your finger on kind of what went sideways there?
No, I don't. First of all, I'm indebted to Mitch and what he's done for so many different reasons. And things are, it's hard. It's hard to go through these processes. I care so much about them, and it didn't work out here. And that's I feel like for myself, I want to start with me just knowing like, hey, that's something that when I came here to Chicago, you're dealing with a young quarterback that obviously we all did a lot of work on with that class. I know we did in Kansas City as well. And you come here and, different things happen, but the kid worked so hard. He won a lot of football games for us. And when I say I'm indebted to him, I mean, there's so many different conversations and good conversations that we had and things we worked throughout those 3 years. And for different reasons, it didn't work out. But I certainly appreciate the way that he handled everything, and I'm sure he's learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, just like you said, and wanting to try to develop quarterbacks and how do you do that? And, where could I have been better and try to get better and learn as a head coach in developing a quarterback. I'm sure he learned too in things that he could have done better and differently. But guess what? Here we are, and he's in a new chapter, and we're in a new chapter. And so I have nothing but good feelings for Mitch. I wish him nothing but the best. Teams change every single year. There's always change. And, I just, that's where he's at. That's where we're at. And obviously we would have loved to have it work for both ends, but it didn't. And this is where we're at.
You said you could have been better. Asking you to speak just for yourself. Is there, in what ways?
I think that's a good question. I think for me, as you go through as a head coach, there's a lot of different responsibilities that you have. And so when you look back at the relationship side, the communication side, you always want to go back and say, okay, could I have done more in a certain way of communicating, maybe a different way of how you learn who he is. But as you all know, I mean, the quarterback position has changed in this league in the last, 5 to 6 years. And right now, there's just so much instant gratification that's wanted and needed with teams that, people want it right away, especially too, when you can, hit on a quarterback that's cheap, in their first four years. And so I'm always going to start with myself and say, okay, where could I have gotten better? And I just feel like, you know, some of it there is me being able to probably, as I build this staff and we have different parts to the coaching staff of how they deal with the quarterback position, the coaching side, on the field, on game day, et cetera. I just feel like in general, you know, that's probably where I would have started. But I learned through it, and I'm sure Mitch did too. And again, like there's a lot of other teams that have been in similar situations throughout the years, and that's just where we're at right now.
Jeff Dickerson.
Hey, Matt, it's great to see you.
You too, Jeff.
I'm sure every year in the pre-draft process, when you have to evaluate quarterbacks, there's just so much that goes into that. This year with the changes, the fact you don't get as much time with these guys, has that forced you to change anything as an evaluator? And can you still get a real feel for what these guys are all about despite these limitations?
Really awesome question. I'd say this. It is definitely more difficult because you just don't have, you know, when you're there at the combine and you're able to see these guys, specifically talking about the quarterbacks, throw and see the ball come out of their hands, see their footwork. You get to see every one of those guys from the top guy to the bottom guy. And right now, you just don't have the luxury of doing that. You know, as Ryan has said, and everybody knows, you know, we've been to a few pro days with some of these quarterbacks in other positions, and it definitely helps. But there's only so many of those that you can do and see, and just with everything else that's going on. So, but here's what's fair is that every other team is doing the same thing. So there's a lot of teams in this league right now that are always evaluating the quarterback position. Ryan and I are super excited about you know, going through that right now together and how we do it. And so it's a challenge, but we look forward to it. And it's there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft class.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Matt. The connection between Andy Dalton and Bill Lazor is fairly obvious. I'm curious, do you envision this offensive philosophy kind of maybe swinging a little bit towards some of what Bill's done throughout his career? And have you decided who's going to be calling the plays this coming season?
Yeah, so the first part in regards to the, you know, where we go schematically, what I would say is we are literally wrapping up as a coaching staff all of our scheme evaluation, which is a fun process in trying to figure out where we're at, what we want to do. Did we have an identity? What was it and why? Now, when you start developing, and as I said, teams change every year, you got to start knowing, okay, what's the strength of your team? Well, we're not 100% there yet because we still have the draft and we still have some pieces that we feel like offensively, defensively, special teams wise that we can add that can be significant. So once we know exactly where that's at, it'll help us. Now, knowing that going into this thing, having Andy as our quarterback, what we're able to do, and we'd be foolish to not do this, is go back and see the things that he does well, right? And then what things do we do well with specifically personnel-wise, our players, now that we've been with them for 3 years, what are their strengths? And let's kind of, you know, taper this offense towards that. So that's the part where now with this offensive coaching staff that we have, there were some new faces last year. We're now going into year 2 together. So not only for the player side, do they know the players, but we as coaches know the strengths and weaknesses of each other. And now we put that all together. Andy having a background with Bill, that definitely helps. There's a comfort level there, right? They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so that part is really good. And so now what we got to do is be able to say, okay, when the players get in here and we're rolling, like what are some of his strengths and weaknesses? And every quarterback is different. It's going to be different than Mitchell. It's going to be different than Nick. It's going to be different than what Alex Smith was at the end there in Kansas City. But that's the fun part. So that's that. And then as far as calling plays, you know, I'm going to be the one calling the plays this year. And so I know you'll probably be asking that, so we can, you know, just let you know that from the front end. But that's an exciting thing for me to get back to knowing where we're at, and you know, it's the fun part right now is building what we want to do better, getting that right with coaches and players that are going to be with us.
Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good, good. Ryan mentioned the fit with the offense as being a key to signing Dalton. What exactly does that mean? How does a better fit at quarterback make you a better offense?
Well, every team, every quarterback, every situation is a little bit different. And I think when you talk about fit, there's a lot of different things that go into it. And we all, without getting into specifics, meaning what Ryan's talking about, that's something that we keep to ourselves as to what we like. We're not going to sit here and talk about the weaknesses of a specific player. And so we know what the strengths and weaknesses are of every player on our team. And so when we talk about fit, I think probably some of that goes to schematically some of the things that Andy has done in his career, in his 10 years in this league, that fits schematically some of the stuff that we have done here in the past 3 years, right? Now, some things will be a little bit different. There's going to be some things that Andy likes that Mitch and Nick hated, and vice versa. But we're going to work together to be able to figure out what that is. And so, as a personnel department, as Ryan as the GM, myself as the head coach, and our coaching staff, when we collectively came together and said that, hey, when you go through free agency and you look at everybody that's available, right? It was really a strong consensus for us to get Andy in here and move forward with him as a starting quarterback.
We have time for two more. Mark Grody.
Hi, Matt. Kind of following up with Andy Dalton, the starter. Did some of the competition that you guys have last year that maybe slowed down your progress early in the season, did that go into the consideration as to why there is no quarterback competition this year and Andy Dalton is the undisputed number one?
No, I don't think so, but I could also understand why you asked that question, because I think there is for some situations you can see like that, those are valuable reps. And we knew going into last year, which was a different year, that's where we were at. We were going to have a competition with Mitch and Nick. This year, depending on what happens with the OTAs in the offseason, we'll take every rep we can get with the ones and with him as the starter. And we'll do the same thing in training camp. But at the same point in time, I can't say that was a determining factor, but it's certainly a part of it. And I think when you do have that guy that you know going into it, you feel good about it, helps out.
Last one, Chris Emma.
Matt, you spoke last season after giving up the play calling about the benefits you thought were there for you to kind of see the team from a different view. What led you to the decision that you're going to take over back as the play caller, how did the scheme evaluation lead to this kind of point?
Yeah, I mean that's for me, again, without getting into too much of last year, there's a lot of things that go into that, and when we look through the scheme eval and where we're at. It was for me just something that I feel good about, and it's I'm not real. That's like a minor deal for us right now. We're just going through all this stuff, this film, and seeing where we're at. We got bigger things to worry about than that. So it's just that's where we're at right now.
We're all set. Thanks for your time this morning, Coach.
All right, thank you all. Take care.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
The Rewind Sports 60.
Relax. Reset. Rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.